All right, Mrs. Ralston, I need you to think. Just try and think.
I can't think. My head's numb.
Okay, Mrs. Boyle had just been killed when you came from the kitchen. Are you sure you didn't see or hear anything from the hallway?
No, I don't think so. Just the radio blaring. Couldn't think we turned it on so loud.
It was clearly the murderer's intention. Or murderess.
How could I have heard anything else?
Well, so you might have... See, if they heard you coming from the kitchen, they might have slipped out through the dining room or upstairs.
I think... Well, I'm not sure. I might have heard a creak just
Creak?
as I came out of the kitchen.
Where? Where'd you hear a creak?
I don't know.
Mrs. Ralston, I need you to think. Was it upstairs? Was it downstairs? Was it close at hand to the left or to the right?
I don't know, I tell you. Not even sure I heard anything at all.
Quit bullying my wife. Can't you see she's all honest? This is a murder investigation, Mr. Ralston. Up to now, none of you have been cooperating. Mrs. Boyle had out on me, and now she's dead. Now, we need to get to the bottom of things, and quickly, mind you, otherwise there might be another death here.
Another? Nonsense. Why?
3 blind mice, Mr. Ralston.
A death for each of them. But that means there would have to be another connection. I mean, with the Longridge Farm business.
Oh, yes, there'd have to be that. Now, I've already gotten your statement. You said, let's see, you were in the kitchen, you came through the hallway, it was dark, you came in here, the radio was playing, you turned on the right, and you saw Mrs. Boyle's body, and you screamed.
Yes, I screamed and screamed. Last people came.
Yes, people came, practically from all directions all at once. Now when I went out that window to trace the telephone wire, Mr. Ralston, I just left you to go up to the room that you and Mrs. Ralston occupy to try the telephone extension. Now where were you when your wife screamed?
I was still up in the bedroom. The extension wire was dead too. I was looking out the window to see if I could see any signs of the wire being cut, but I couldn't.
Well, civil actions took you quite some time, didn't they?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I dare say you took quite your time on that.
I was thinking about something.
Very well. Mr. Wren, I'll have your account of things.
I was in the kitchen helping Mrs. Ralston with the vegetables, and then I went up to my room.
Why?
Well, I suppose it's a perfectly normal thing to go to one's room. One does want to be alone sometimes.
You want to be alone?
Yes, and I wanted to tidy up and to brush my hair.
You wanted to brush your hair?
Anyways, that's where I was.
And then you heard Mrs. Ralston scream.
Yes.
Then you came downstairs.
Yes.
Interesting that you and Mr. Ralston didn't meet each other on the staircase.
I went down by the back stairs. They're nearer to my room.
Well, isn't that convenient? Now, did you go up by the back stairs as well? Or
I went up by the back stairs as well.
Very well. Mr. Parvicini.
I have told you, I was playing the piano in the drawing room. Through there, Inspector?
I'm not an inspector, merely a sergeant. Now, could anyone hear you playing the piano?
I do not expect so. I was playing very, very softly with one finger.
You were playing 3 blind mice.
Is that so?
Yes. It is a very catchy little tune. It is, how shall I say this, a very haunting little tune. Don't you all agree?
I think it's horrible.
And yet it runs in people's heads. Someone was whistling it.
Wait, whistling at where?
Oh, I'm not sure. Perhaps in the front hall, perhaps on the stairs, perhaps even upstairs in the bedroom.
Who was whistling the 3 blind mice? Are you making this up, Mr. Parvicini?
No, Inspector. I beg your pardon. Sergeant, I will not do a thing like that.
Very well, go on. You say you were playing piano in the drawing room.
Yes, with one finger. And then I hear the radio playing very loudly. Someone was shouting on it. It offended my ears. And then suddenly I hear Mrs. Ralston scream.
So we have Mr. Ralston upstairs in his room. We have Mr. Wren in his room as well. Mr. Parvicini in the drawing room playing piano. Miss Casewell,
I was writing letters in the library.
could you hear what's going on in here?
No. Well, not until Mrs. Ralston screamed.
And what'd you do then?
I came in here.
At once?
I think so.
Now, you say you were writing letters, correct?
Yes.
And you hurriedly came in here.
Yes.
Interesting that there's no unfinished letter in the library table.
I brought it with me.
My dearest Jessie, friend, close
It's
relation?
none of your damn business.
No, I suppose not. You know, if I was writing letters to a close friend and I heard someone screaming bloody murder in the other room, I don't think I'd take my time to neatly fold my letter and put it in its handbag before seeing what's the matter.
You wouldn't. How interesting.
Now then, Major Metcalf, I'll have your account. You say you were in the cellar, correct?
Yes?
Let's see. Why?
I was looking around. Simply looking around. I went to the front stairs and found myself accosted by a door. Went through the door and found myself in a cupboard of sorts. All sorts of sporting fishing tackle there. Went through another door at the end of a small passage and found myself in a very large cellar. My compliments. Very impressive cellars you've got.
Oh, why'd you like them?
Yes, after exiting the cellar, I found myself in a large crypt. I'd wager it's the reason why they called this place Monkswell after all.
We're not interested in antiquarian research, Major Metcalf. Now, Mrs. Ralston says she heard a faint creak. Now, that door to the cellar in particular closes with a faint creak. Now, it could be, after the murder of Mrs. Boyle, the murderer went through there, pulling the door after him.
A lot of things could be, Sergeant.
There would be fingerprints on the inside of the cupboard.
Ah, yes, might have there, all right, but do pardon my intrusion. If a murderer was going to commit this crime, wouldn't they be more careful and wear a pair of gloves?
All criminals slip up eventually.
I wonder, Sergeant, if that's really true.
Look here,
Now,
Sergeant.
Mr. Ralston, please, this is my investigation.
All right.
Don't forget, Mr. Ralston, please. Now, there are two staircases. Any one of you could have gone up one and come down the other. Now, any of you could have also gone through the kitchen, into the cupboard, and down to the cellars, and gone up through the trapdoor at the foot of this staircase. Now, the vital fact is you were all alone the time the crime was committed.
You speak as though under suspicion. That's absurd.
In a murder investigation, everyone's under suspicion.
All right, but you pretty well know killed that woman in Culver Street, a mentally abnormal young man who's not 23 years of age. Well, damn it all! There's only one person who fits the bill!
It's not true! It's not true! You're all against me! Everyone's always been against me. You're gonna frame me for murder? It's persecution, that's what it is! Persecution!
Steady, lad, steady!
It's all right, Chris. Nobody's against you. Tell him it's all right.
We don't frame people.
Well, tell him you're not going to arrest him.
Arrest him? No, you need evidence to arrest people, and we don't have any of that yet.
I think you're crazy, and you too. There's only one person who fits the bill. If it isn't as a safety measure, he ought to be put under arrest. It's only fair to the rest of us.
Wait, Giles. Wait, Sergeant Trotter, can I speak to you a minute?
Absolutely. You all go into the dining room, please.
I'm staying.
No.
I'm staying, Molly! I don't know what's come over you.
Please.
Very well, Mrs. Ralston, you want to speak to me?
Yes. Sergeant Trotter, you think that this crazy killer must be the eldest of those three children, but you don't know that, do you?
No, we really don't know anything. All we are going off of is that the woman in charge of the ill-treating of those children has now been killed yesterday, while the woman magistrate in charge of putting them in their care has also been killed just now. Now, the telephone wire has been cut, and that
Well,
links me
you
to
don't
this-
even know that. May have just been the snow.
No, it was deliberately cut. I saw it before I came in.
I see, but all the same.
Well,
you-
please, all we know is that he's mentally unstable, he's got a childish mentality, desertion from the army, and, well, a psychiatric report as well.
I know, therefore it all seems to point to Christopher, but I don't believe it is Christopher. There must be other possibilities.
Such as,
Well, hadn't those children any relations at all?
well, they had a mother, and she was a drunk, and she died soon after the children were taken away.
Well, what about their father?
The father was a sergeant in the army, and let's see, if he's still alive, he's probably discharged by now.
You don't know where he is now?
We have no information on his present whereabouts, and to trace him would take quite some time. Believe me, the police take every eventuality into account.
But you don't know where he is at this minute. And if the son's mentally unstable, the father may have been unstable too.
That's a possibility.
Suppose he came home and found his wife dead, and that his children had gone through some terrible experience. One of them had died through it. He might go off his head a bit, want revenge.
Well, see, that's only surmise, you see.
But it's possible.
Of course, it's all possible.
So the murder may be middle-aged or even old. When I said the police had rung up, Major Metcalf was frightfully upset.
Major Metcalf?
Middle-aged, a soldier. I know he seems quite nice and perfectly normal, but might it show, might it?
No, often it doesn't.
So it's not only Christopher who's a suspect. There's Major Metcalf as well.
Well, anyone else?
Well, Mr. Parvicini did drop the poker when I said the police had rung up.
Mr. Parvicini?
I know he seems all old and foreign and everything, but he mightn't really be as old as he looks. He moves like a much younger man. He's definitely got makeup on his face. He might be, I know it sounds very melodramatic, but he might be disguised.
You seem very anxious that it shouldn't be young Mr. Wren.
He just seems so helpless somehow, and so unhappy.
You know, Mrs. Ralston, we've had every possibility and since the beginning. The boy Georgie, the father. You might remember there was another.
The sister?
Yes. Yes, it could have been a woman that killed Mrs. Lyon. With the dark overcoat, the hat pulled down, and the scarf pulled to their face. She's the voice that gives the sex away. Yes, it could have been a woman.
Miss Casewell.
She's a bit old for the part. Well, very well, you yourself.
Me?
Don't tell me anything. I have no means of checking out at this time. We'll also think there's your husband Giles as well.
Giles? How ridiculous.
Well, say he and Christopher are much the same age. Say Christopher's maybe a little younger for his age, and your husband looks a little older. Actual age is hard to tell nowadays. How well do you really know Giles?
How well do I know Giles? Don't be silly.
How long have you been married?
Just a year.
And where did you meet him?
At a dance in London. We went to a party.
And did you meet his people?
He hasn't any people.
They're all dead.
Yes, but you make it all sound wrong. His father was a barrister and his mother died when he was a baby.
Are you telling me what he told you?
Yes.
So you have no first-hand knowledge of this yourself?
It's outrageous.
Mrs. Ralston, you'd be quite surprised how many cases like yours we get nowadays, especially since the war. Families are all broken up. The young people just settle their own affairs. See, the boy will say he's just finished his army training or he's in the Air Force. The young people just meet and they marry. See, it's the families that usually make the inquiries before they consult it to marriage. Young people just go out there and just meet each other and they marry. The girls won't find out for about a year or two that he's some absconding bank clerk or an army desert or something equally undesirable. Now, how long did you really know your husband before you married him?
Just 3 weeks.
So you really don't know anything about him at all?
That's not true. I know everything about him. I know exactly the sort of person he is. He's Giles, and it's absolutely absurd to suggest he's some horrible, crazy, homicidal maniac. Why, he wasn't even in London yesterday when the murder took place.
Well, where was he? Here?
No, he went across country to a sale to get some wild onion for our chickens.
Why didn't you bring it back with him?
No, turned out to be the wrong kind.
You're only 30 miles from London. Is this your ABC? Only an hour by train, a little longer by car.
Giles wasn't in London.
Just a minute. This is your husband's overcoat.
Yes.
Yesterday's paper. Evening news. Sold on the streets at 3:30.
I don't believe it.
Don't you? Don't you?
Molly,
Oh, you startled me.
where is he? Where is he gone?
Who?
The sergeant.
Oh, he went up that way.
If only there was some way I could get away. Somehow. Is there anywhere I can hide? In the house?
Hide?
Yes, from him.
Why?
Darling, they're all so frightfully against me. They're gonna say I committed these murders, particularly your husband.
Never mind him. Listen, Christopher, you can't go on running away from things all your life.
What makes you say that?
Well, it's true, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite true.
You've really got to grow up sometime, Chris.
Wish I hadn't.
Your name isn't really Christopher Wren, is it?
No,
And you're not training to become an architect?
no.
Why did you...
Call myself Christopher Wren? Just amused me. They used to laugh at me in school and call me Little Christopher Robin. Robin, Wren, association of ideas, I suppose. It was hell being in school.
What's your real name?
We needn't go into that. I left whilst I was doing my army service. It was all so ghastly, I hated it. Yes, I'm just like the unknown murderer. I told you I was the one the specification fitted. My mother, you see... My mother...
Yes, your mother.
Everything would have been all right if she hadn't died. She would have looked after me and taken care of me.
You can't go on being looked after all your life. Things happen to you, and you've got to bear them. You've got to go on just as usual.
One can't just do that.
Yes, one can.
You mean... you have?
Yes.
What was it? Something very bad?
Something I've never forgotten.
Was it something to do with Giles?
No, it was long before I met Giles.
You must have been very young. Almost a child.
Perhaps that's why it was so awful. It was horrible. Horrible. I try to put it out of my mind. I try never to think about it.
Then you're running away from things instead of facing them too.
Yes, perhaps in a way I am. You know, considering that we never saw each other until yesterday, we seem to know each other quite well.
Yes, it's quite odd, isn't it?
I don't know, I suppose there's a sort of sympathy between us.
Anyways, you think I ought to stick it out.
Well, frankly, what else can you do?
I thought I might pinch the sergeant's skis. I can ski quite well.
That would be frightfully stupid. It'd be almost like admitting you're guilty.
Sergeant Trotter thinks I'm guilty.
No, he doesn't. Or at least, I don't know what he thinks. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him!
Who?
The sergeant, he puts things in your head, things that aren't true, things that can't possibly be true.
What is all of this?
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
What won't you believe? Come on out with it.
You see this? What is it? Yesterday's evening paper. A London paper. It was in Giles' coat pocket, but Giles didn't go to London yesterday.
Well, if he was here all
But
day,
he wasn't. He went out looking for chicken wire, but he couldn't find any.
perhaps he went to London after all?
Then why shouldn't he tell me he did? Why pretend he'd been driving all around the countryside?
Perhaps with the news of this murder?
Well, Giles didn't know about the murder. Or did he? Did he?
Good Lord, Molly, surely you don't think. Surely the sergeant doesn't think.
I don't know what the sergeant thinks, but he can make you think things about people. You ask yourself questions and you begin to doubt. You feel that somebody you love and know quite well might as well be a stranger. That's what happens in a nightmare, you know. You're somewhere surrounded by friends, and suddenly you look at their faces and they're not your friends any longer. They're different people, just pretending. Perhaps you can't trust anyone. Perhaps everyone's a stranger.
I seem to be interrupting something.
No, we were just talking. I better go prepare dinner.
I'll come with you.
No, you won't.
Giles.
One-on-ones aren't a very healthy thing at present. You stay out of the kitchen away from my wife.
Well, look here.
You stay away from my wife, Ren. She's not even the next victim.
That's what he thinks about me.
I've already said so, haven't I? There's a killer loose in this house, and it seems to me you fit the bill.
I'm not the only one who fits the bill.
I'll see who else does.
How blind you are. Or do you just pretend to be blind?
I tell you, I'm worrying about my wife's safety.
So am I! I'm not gonna let you be alone with her.
Who the hell?
Please go, Chris.
I'm not going.
Please go. I mean it.
I shan't be far away.
What is wrong with you, Molly? Perfectly prepared to shut yourself up in the kitchen for homicidal maniac!
He isn't.
You've only got to look at him to see he's bum!
He isn't. He's just unhappy. I tell you, Giles, he's not dangerous. I know if he was dangerous. And besides, I can take care of myself.
That's what Miss Boyle said.
Giles, don't.
Look here. What is it between you and that wretched boy?
What do you mean by between us? I feel sorry for him. That's all.
Perhaps you met him before. Perhaps it's just for him to come here and pretend to meet for the first time. Awkward depth between you, wasn't it?
Giles, have you gone completely out of your mind?
Rather odd, isn't it? That you should come stay in an out-of-the-way place like this?
No odder than that Miss Boyle and Miss Casewell and Major Metcalf should.
You know, I read in the papers once that these homicidal cases can attract women. So it seems to be true. How long has it been going on? Where did you meet him?
You're being absolutely ridiculous. I never set eyes on Christopher Wren until he arrived yesterday.
That's what you say, but perhaps you'd be good up to London to meet him on the sly.
I haven't been up to London for
You
weeks.
haven't been up to London for weeks.
And what on earth does that mean? It's quite true.
It is? Then what's this? This is a London bus ticket. I found it while you were talking to Detective Sergeant Trotter. It was in your glove. So it seems you only didn't go to the village yesterday, you also went to London. Well, I was safely racing around the countryside.
While you were racing around the countryside.
Come on now, admit it. You went to London.
All right, I went to London, but so did you.
What?
So did you. You brought back an evening paper.
Where did you get that?
It was in your overcoat pocket.
Anyone could have put it there.
Did they? No. You were in London.
Alright, fine. I went to London. But I didn't go there to meet a woman.
Didn't you? Are you sure you didn't?
Molly, what's the matter?
Don't come near me.
Molly, what's wrong?
Don't touch me.
Did you go to London yesterday to meet Christopher Wren?
Don't be a fool. Of course I didn't.
Then why did you go?
I shan't tell you that. Perhaps now I've forgotten why I went.
Molly, you're different all of a sudden. You're acting weird. It's like I don't even know you anymore.
Perhaps you never did know me. We've been married how long? A year? But you don't even know anything about me.
Molly, you're crazy!
All right, then I'm crazy. Why not? Perhaps it's fun to be crazy.
Who the hell are you?
No, now. I hope you young people are not both saying a little more than you mean. One is so inclined to in these lovers' quarrels.
Lovers' quarrels? That's good.
Quite so. I've been taught this myself now as a younger man. Jeunesse, as the poet says. Not been married long, I imagine.
It's no business of yours, Mr. Barnabas.
No business at all. But I just came in to say that the sergeant could not find the skis, and I'm afraid these are very unwanted.
Christopher.
What?
He wants to know by any chance you have moved them, Mr. Ralston.
No, of course not.
Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston, did either of you remove my skis from the cupboard?
No.
Well, nevertheless, they're gone now.
And what made you happen to look for them?
Well, the snow is lying out there. I was going to ski down to the Market Hampton to report the situation. I need backup here.
And now you can't. Dear, somebody has certainly seen to it that you shan't do that. But there could be another reason, couldn't there?
Well, what?
Somebody may want to get away.
What did you mean when you said Christopher just now?
Nothing.
So our young architect has hooked it, has he? Very, very interesting.
Is this true, Mrs. Ralston?
Oh, thank goodness. We haven't gone after
Mr.
all.
Wren, did you take my skis from the cupboard?
Your skis, Sergeant? No, why should I?
Well, Mrs. Ralston seems to
Mr.
think...
Red is very fond of skiing. I thought he might have taken them just to get a little exercise.
Exercise?
Now listen here, everyone. Someone has taken my skis, my only communication with the outside world. Now I need everyone in here this instant.
I think Miss Casewell's gone upstairs.
I'll get her.
Oh, I left Major Metcalf in the dining room. I shall go look for him. Major Metcalf! He is not there now.
I'll go get him.
Hello, wanting me?
Yes, it's a matter of my skis.
Skis?
Yes, did either of you remove my skis from the cupboard?
Good Lord. No, why should I?
And I didn't touch them.
Which way did you go up to your room?
By the back stairs.
So you actually passed by the cupboard.
If you say so, look, I have no idea what your skis are.
Now you say you were actually in the cupboards today.
Yes?
At the time Mrs. Boyle was killed.
Yes.
Now did you see my skis in there?
I don't recall.
You must remember, were my skis in the cupboard?
Now settle down, young man. There's no good at yelling at me. I told you, I just went to the cupboards to simply look around. I didn't know that your damn skis were there in the first place.
Now you yourself realize you had the perfect opportunity to take them.
Yes, I did. If I had wanted to, that is.
Nevertheless, the question is, where are they now?
Well, shouldn't be that hard to find them. Whopping big things, skis. It's not again hunt the thimble.
Now, just a minute, Major McCaff, that might be what we have to do.
What? I don't get you.
Now, listen here, everyone. I have to put myself in the mind of a crazy, cunning brain. I have to ask myself what he wants us to do next, what we're intended to do next, and stay one step ahead of him, because if I don't, there might be another death.
You still don't think that, do you?
3 blind mice, Miss Casewell. 2 have canceled out, and 1 has yet to be dealt with. Now, as I see it, there are 6 of you right here. 1 of you is the killer. Yes, 1 of you is the killer, and 1 of you is the killer's next victim. And I'm speaking to you. You're holding out on me. Well, stop it. Mrs. Boyle did, now she's dead. And anyone who's killed more than twice won't hesitate to kill a 3rd time. Now, come on out with it. Tell me. If you have anything, however slight, just tell me. Very well. I'll catch the killer, and I have no doubts about that, but it might be too late for one of you. And another thing, he's enjoying this. He's enjoying this a great deal. You're dismissed.
Talking of chicken, dear lady, have you ever tried chicken's livers that has been served on toast, thickly smeared with foie gras, with a very thin rasher of bacon, just touch with a salt of fresh mustard? I will come with you to the kitchen and we will see what we can concoct together. A very charming occupation.
I'm helping my wife, Mr. Carter,
Oh, your husband is afraid for you. Quite natural under the circumstances. He does not fancy your being alone with me. It is my sadistic tendencies, he fears, not my dishonorable ones. Alas, what an inconvenience the husband always is.
I'm sure Giles doesn't.
Oh, he is very wise. Take no chances. Can I prove to you, or to him, or to our dogged sergeant over there, that I'm not a homicidal maniac? So difficult to prove a negative. And suppose that instead I'm really...
Oh, don't.
But such a gay little tube. She cut off their tails with the carving knife. Snip, snip, snip. Delicious! Just what a child would adore. Poor little things, children. Some of them never grow up.
Oh.
Stop frightening my wife at once.
I know it's silly of me, but you see, I found her. Her face was all purple. I can't forget it.
Oh, forgetting things is difficult, isn't it? You are not the forgetting kind.
I must go prepare the pie. in the potatoes. Please, Giles.
Now, what'd you say to upset the lady?
Oh, me, Sergeant. Just a little innocent fun. I was fond of a little joke.
Well, there's nice fun and then there's not so nice fun.
Now I do wonder what you mean by that,
So I'm
Sergeant.
doing a little wondering about you myself, sir.
Indeed.
Yes, about your car and how it's so conveniently overturned in the snow.
Inconveniently, you mean, don't you, Sergeant?
Well, it depends on how you look at the situation. Now, and where did you say you were headed to last night?
I was on my way to see a friend.
In this neighborhood?
Not so very far from here.
And what's his friend's name and address?
Really, Sergeant Walter? Does that really matter now? I mean, it has nothing to do with this predicament, has it?
We always like to have the fullest of information. Now, what'd you say his name and address was again?
I didn't say.
No, you didn't. And it doesn't seem like you're going to now. That's very interesting.
Oh, there could be so many reasons. In the mood, discretion, and these jealous husbands.
Little bit old to running around with the ladies, aren't you?
My dear Sergeant, I am not quite so old as I look.
You've been thinking the same thing.
What?
You know, many people nowadays try to make themselves look younger. If someone tries to make themselves look older, then that's cause for suspicion. Now, it does make one ask why.
Having asked questions of so many other people, you still ask questions of yourself as well? Is that overdoing things?
I get answers when I ask myself questions. I don't get any from you.
Well, try again. That is if you have any more questions to ask.
Oh, well, one or two. Now, where'd you say you were coming from last night?
That is simple. From London.
And what's the address?
I always stay at the Ritz Hotel.
That's very expensive. Interesting. Now, what's your permanent address?
I dislike permanency.
So what's your profession?
I play markets.
Stockbroker.
No, you misunderstand me.
Enjoying this little game, aren't you? So sure of yourself. Well, I wouldn't be too sure. Murder isn't fun and games.
Not even this one, Sergeant. Dear me, you're very serious, aren't you? I've always thought policemen have no sense of humor. Is the Inquisition over for the moment?
For the moment, yes.
Thank you so much. I shall return to the drawing room, just in case someone has hidden your skis in the grand piano.
Now, just a minute.
Were you speaking to me?
Yes, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Well, what would you like to know?
You might have heard I was asking Mr. Parvicini. Why don't you sit down?
I heard.
Now, first thing I'd like to know your full name, please.
Leslie Margaret Catherine Caswell.
Catherine.
I spell it with a K.
Right, of course. And what's your address?
Via Mariposa, Pine Door, Majorca.
Is that in Italy?
It's an island, a Spanish island.
And any English address?
Care of Morgan's Bank, Leadenhall Street.
Any other permanent address?
No,
And how long have you been in England for?
about a week or so.
And where have you been staying?
At the Ledbury Hotel, Knightsbridge.
What brought you to Monkswell Manor?
I wanted somewhere quiet in the country
How long do you suppose you're going to be staying for then?
until I finished what I came here to do.
And that was... And that was...
I'm sorry.
What was it you came here to do?
I beg your pardon. I was thinking of something else.
You still didn't answer my question.
You know, I don't really see why I should. It's a matter that concerns me alone. A strictly private affair.
The same, Miss Casey.
No, I don't think we'll argue about it.
You might tell me your age.
The lease is on my passport. I'm 24.
24?
You were thinking I look older. That is quite true.
Is there anyone in this country that can vouch for you?
My bank will reassure you as to my financial position, and I can refer you to a solicitor, a very discreet man. I'm in no position to offer social reference. I've lived most of my life abroad.
Yeah, Majorca.
In Majorca and other places.
So you're born abroad?
No. I left England when I was 13.
No, I can't quite make you out, Miss Casewell.
Does it matter?
Well, see, you left England when you were 13.
12, 13, there.
And your name was Casewell.
It's my
then.
name now.
What was your name then?
What are you trying to
Well,
prove?
I'd like to know what your name was before you left England.
It's a long time ago. I've forgotten.
There are things that one doesn't forget.
Possibly.
I'm Unhappiness, despair.
I dare say.
What is your real name?
I told you. Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell.
Kathy. Kathy. Kathy? What the hell are you doing here? Kathy, no, what? How the hell did you
Oh my
find
God!
Kathy?
Oh my God!
Kathy,
I wish
no.
you guys never come here!
I always thought the police weren't allowed to give people the third degree.
He was merely interrogating Miss Casewell.
You seem to upset her. What did he do?
Nothing. It's just this murder is so terrible. It came over me suddenly. I'm going to my room.
I just can't.
What can't you believe? 6 impossible things before breakfast like the Red Queen, eh?
Oh, sure, something of that matter.
You look as though you've seen a
Well,
ghost.
I've seen something I should have seen before. Blind as a bat I've been. I feel like now we can finally get somewhere.
The police have a clue.
Yes, Mr. Wren, at last the police have a clue. You can go gather everyone. You know where they all are.
Giles and Molly are in the kitchen, and I've been helping Major Metcalf look for your skis. We've looked in the most entertaining of places, but all to no avail. I don't know where Parvicini is.
You worry about the others, I'll get him. Mr. Parvicini? Mr. Parvicini? Mr. Parvicini?
Yes, Sergeant. What can I do? Little boy policeman has lost his keys and doesn't know where to find them. Leave them alone, and they'll come home, dragging a murderer behind them.
What's all this?
Sit down, Major. Mr. Ralston, please sit down.
Must I come now? It's very inconvenient.
Well, there's more important things than meals. For instance, Mrs. Boyle won't be having any.
That's a very tactless way of putting it, Sergeant.
Well, I'm sorry, but I want to have full cooperation. Now, Mr. Ralston, please go upstairs and grab Miss Case. I'll tell you it'll only be a minute.
Have your skis been found, Sergeant?
Not yet, but I have a very shrewd suspicion of who might have taken them. Forgive me if I don't go into that at this moment.
No, please don't. I've always thought explanations would be left to the very end, you know, the exciting last chapter.
This isn't a game, sir.
But isn't it? I think it is a game. To someone.
Oh, you think the murderer is enjoying himself? Maybe, just maybe.
What's going on?
Please sit down, Miss Casewell. Mrs. Ralston, please sit as well. Now then, you might remember that after Mrs. Boyle was killed, I got all your accounts of where you were. Now these are your accounts, and I have no means of checking on them, but here they go. Here they go as follows. Mrs. Ralston, you say you were in the kitchen preparing vegetables. Now, Mr. Parvicini, you were in the drawing room playing piano. Mr. Ralston, you were upstairs in your room trying the telephone extension. Mr. Wren, you were upstairs in your room as well. And Miss Casewell, you were in the library writing letters, and Major Metcalf, you were in the cellar.
Correct.
Now, these are your statements, and I have no means of checking on them, but to put it simply, 5 of them are true, and 1 is not. Yes, one of you is lying to me. Now, I have devised a way for us to find out who the liar is, and once I've found out the liar, I've found the murderer.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, someone may have lied for some other reason.
I rather doubt that.
But what's the idea, Sergeant? You just said you had no means of checking these statements.
Well, people would go through their actions for a second time.
Ah, that old chestnut. Reconstruction of the crime.
That's a foreign idea.
Well, not a reconstruction of a crime, merely the reconstructions of the actions of supposed innocent people.
It's a trap.
What do you mean it's a trap?
It's a trap. I know it is.
Well, I just want people to do exactly what they did before.
But I simply can't see what you hope to gain from reconstructing the crime. I think it's nonsense.
Do you, Mr. Wren?
Well, you can count me out.
I can't count anyone out. I want to say you're guilty all by the looks of you. Why you're all so unwilling?
We'll cooperate. Right, Molly?
Very well.
Metcalf?
Yes.
Wren? This case one?
Yes.
Parvicini?
Oh yes, I can say.
We are to do just as we did before.
Exactly.
Then I shall return to the drawing room. Once again, I will pick out the signature tune of a murderer.
Not so fast, Mr. Parvicini. Mrs. Ralston, do you know how to play piano?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the tune of the Three Blind Mice?
Don't we all know
Now,
it?
can you go in there and sit at the piano and wait for my signal to begin to play?
But, Sergeant, I understood we were each to repeat our former roles.
Well, the same actions will be performed again, but not by the same people. Thank you, Mrs. Ralston. Please go. Now, this is a means of checking up on one statement in particular. Now, listen very closely as I give you your new assignments. Now, Mr. Wren, will you please go into the kitchen and watch over Mrs. Ralston's dinner? I do believe you have a fondness for cooking. Now, Miss Parvachini, I need you to go up to Mr. Wren's room by the back staircase. It would be most convenient. And Miss Casewell, I need you to go down to the cellar. Major Metcalf, please go up to Mr. and Mrs. Ralston's room and try the table extension up there. And I hate to ask it, but I need someone to recreate my own actions. So, seeing as you're the toughest for the job, I'll leave that to you, Mr. Ralston. Now then, you're probably wondering what I'm going to be doing. I will be reenacting the role of Mrs. Boyle.
Taking a bit of a risk, aren't you?
I don't think so. You're all dismissed. Go ahead.
Harvard.
No objection to me taking my coat?
No, I should advise it, sir. Mr. Ralston, begin to play. Mrs. Ralston, please come in. Mrs. Ralston.
Yes, what is it? You're looking very pleased with yourself. Have you got what you wanted?
I've got exactly what I wanted.
You know who the murderer is, then?
Yes.
Well, which of them?
Well, you should know.
I?
We policemen are as dumb as you think, Mrs. Ralston. You knew all along. Why didn't you say anything? You put yourself in danger more than once.
I don't know what you mean.
You knew all along about the Longridge Farm case. And you knew Mrs. Boyle was the magistrate in concern of putting them in their care. Now, why didn't you say anything sooner?
I don't understand. I wanted to forget.
Your maiden name was Waring, right?
Yes.
And you taught school. You taught school with those 3 children then.
Yes.
Isn't it true? The boy that died, Jimmy, got a letter posted to you. A letter asking for help. From his poor school teacher. You didn't even answer.
I couldn't. I never got it.
Didn't even bother.
That's not true. I was ill. I went down with pneumonia that very day. The letter was put aside, along with a lot of other letters. It was weeks later that I got it. I think that poor child was dead. Dead. Waiting for me to do something. Hoping. Only I hadn't been ill. If I'd known, it's just monstrous that such a thing should happen.
Yes, it's monstrous.
I thought police didn't carry revolvers.
But policemen don't, Mrs. Ralston. And I'm not a policeman. I merely thought I was because I rang from the call box and said that I was some Superintendent Hogbin and that Sergeant Trotter was coming out here to check out the place. Now, don't you recognize me? I'm Georgie. I'm Jimmy's brother, Georgie. Now, don't you scream. Because if you do, I'm going to have to shoot you. I don't want to do that. I want to talk. Did you hear me? I want to talk. Now, Jimmy's dead. And that nasty, cruel woman killed him. They put her in jail. Well, jail wasn't bad enough for her. I said I'd kill her one day. And I did. In the fog. It was such fun. And Jimmy knew that. I'll kill her when I'm grown up, because when you're grown up, you can do anything you want. Just like now, I'm going to kill you.
You better not. You'll never get away safely.
That's because someone has taken my skis, and I can't find them. It's no matter. I don't care if I get away with it now. I'm tired. It's been so much fun, watching you all, pretending to be a policeman.
Your revolver
Might as well just take it by the neck then. Last mouse is in its trap.
Georgie!
Get off of her!
No, Georgie, Georgie, look at me! Georgie! Georgie, look at me! Georgie, it's me, Georgie.
No.
And the farm, and the pigs, and the dogs.
Dogs? What dogs?
What? Georgie,
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 what the hell are you doing here again?
Georgie, look at me! Look at me. I came to England to find you. And I didn't recognize you until you twirled your hair the way you always used to. Yeah, just like that.
No, Kathy, no,
Come
I
on,
can't
Georgie, Georgie, you're coming with me.
Where are we going?
You're coming with me. We're going to take you somewhere. We're going to make sure you do no more harm. Okay? Come on. Come, Georgie. Georgie. It's okay. It's okay.
Ralston! Mr. Ralston!
Molly, darling.
Charles, he's mad. Quite mad.
Trotter. Who would ever dreamt it was Trotter?
It wasn't my fault. I taught in school where those children went. Thought I could have saved that child.
Why didn't you tell me?
I wanted to forget.
Well, everything's settled down now. The sedative we gave the poor lad should have knocked him out in a few minutes. Poor man's as mad as a hatter, though, to be honest, I always did have my suspicions.
You did. Didn't you believe he was a policeman?
Oh, no, Miss Ralston. He couldn't have possibly been a policeman, because you see, I'm a policeman.
You?
Yes. When we found that notebook on Culver Street, we realized we could be one step ahead of the murder. We telephoned a guest, a Major Metcalf, and he was willing to switch places with me, and that is how I arrived here unannounced. Now, if you mind, or don't mind for that matter, I think I'll go remove those skis from that four-poster of yours.
I thought it was Parvicini.
I'm sure they examined his car. I wouldn't be surprised if they found 1,000 Swiss watches in the spare tire. Molly, I believe you thought I was...
Giles, what were you doing in London yesterday?
Oh, Molly, we married just a year today. I was buying you an anniversary present.
That's what I went to London for too, and I didn't want you to know.
No.
They're cigars. I do hope they're all right.
They're perfect.
You'll smoke them?
I'll smoke them.
Where's my present?
Oh, I almost forgot about your presents. It's a hat.
A hat, but I practically never wear one.
Just for best. Put it on.
Later, when my hair's done properly.
The lady at the store said it was the latest thing in hats.
It's lovely, darling.
Miss Ralston, I do believe something is burning in your kitchen.
My pie!
Tradition of Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap, we now ask you as you leave the theater tonight not to disclose any of the events that happened here to anyone else in order to preserve the magic and mystery and suspense of this show for future years to come. Thank you for coming out. Good night.
I love you,